Today we're going to learn some more rules of exponents. Again, you're required to take notes, so please get out your notebooks now. If I go too fast, you need to pause the video. All the words and everything you need are right there on the screen, so make sure you get that down. Okay? If you don't have those materials out, let's pause and take them out now. Before we get going, I want you to think about this. You know how the product rule works, okay? You know what the product rule with powers works. And you know that when you have things with the same base, you add the exponents, okay? So I want you to try to predict how the quotient rule will work. Think about that for a minute. Okay? So hopefully you know that product is what kind of mathematical operation? You should know that that's multiplying, okay? And then quotient is division. And how do these two relate to each other? Okay? They're opposites, right? And so for the product rule, the rule says you add. What do you think is going to happen for the quotient rule? If multiplying and division are opposites, and here you add, here you will subtract. It really is that easy. Okay? So let's take a look. This is the rule. Quotient of powers. If they have the same base, subtract the exponents. Okay? So let's take a look at how this is going to work, because it's not always as easy as it sounds. You have 8 to the 5th over 8 to the 7th. And now you want 7 minus 5, because we haven't done negatives yet. Okay? So you don't want a negative, so you're going to get 7 minus 5 is 8 squared. But where does that result go? Where are these extra two 8s going to go? Are they going to go on the top? Are they going to go on the bottom? So we're going to have to take the long way to kind of think about that. And the long way is going to be so helpful. You're going to love it. I will encourage that and demand that of you until you get really, really good. And once you can do all of these without writing them out perfectly, then you can stop writing them out. But until then, we're going to use writing it out as our little training wheels. Okay? So firstly, write both your everything on top and everything in the bottom out in an expanded form. Get rid of those exponents. Then, you know that you can cancel 1 for 1. So these don't cancel out to be 0. Remember what we're looking at here is 8 divided by 8. So you do, you know, this is 1, this is 1. This divided by 8 is 1, 8 divided by 8 is 1. Okay, you get the point. We're not going to baby step it. So basically what you have up top, remember there's not 0 left. All things cancel to 1. Also, let's just take a look straight up at our rules. Let's look at our rules of exponents. How many 8s do you have up here? You have 8 to the 0. How many 8s down here? Anything to the 0, you should know that. Anything to the 0 is 1. And they probably want you to write 64. That's an easier one to multiply out, okay? So basically I'm taking away 5 from both. I take the smaller number and I take it away from both. And if you look at it this way, totally wrong. And you set it up as 8 to the 5th over 8 to the 7th. And I take 5 away from both because that's the most amount I can take away from both. I can't take away any more up top. 5 minus 5, 0. 7 minus 5. And now we're right back to what we had over here. 8 squared is 64. And then you write it back in exponential notation. If there's more on the bottom, the answer will be a fraction. If there's more on the top, it'll simplify. And we'll take a look at how that works out, okay? Let's take a look at these. It's not too unsimilar. So you can start writing these out in expanded form. And then cancel out. 1 to 1, 1 to 1, 1 to 1. So 0, 13's up top, but oh, that's such a mind trick. Kind of a lot like the last time. That is writing it in exponential form. 1 over 13 squared. I can do that. That's easy enough to do. 13 times 13 isn't that hard. Let's take a look at this one. Why don't you try this one on your own? Again, the first step is to write it in expanded form. You must do that. I will be looking for that on your work, on your papers. Okay, I know it's putsy and it's slow, but again, once you have 100% efficiency not doing it that way, then you can let go of it. Okay, so this answer is going to work out a little bit differently because there's nothing left on the bottom, which is 12 to the 0. There's no more left here, and there's 1, 2, 3 on top. But that's over 1, okay? So let's take a look down here. Notice, if there are more on the top, the answer is going to simplify to a whole number because top divided by bottom, we have 12 to the 3rd divided by 1. So when there's more on the bottom, you have a fraction. When there's more on top, you have a whole number. So when we move on, sometimes we're going to have coefficients or other things besides exponents. It works the same way. Now, don't busy yourself writing, 6 to the 4th and multiplying that out, and 6 squared and multiplying that out. Let's do some cleanup work here first, because 6 squared is 36, and 6 to the 4th is 36 times 36, and that's a lot of work. And then you're just going to have to reduce this as a fraction anyway. So let's take the shortcut. Well, as far as shortcuts are concerned, I'm still making you write it out, which isn't much of a shortcut. So what I was trying to kind of say is some up, and you won't have to multiply such big numbers. So let's look at what's left. There's only these 2 6's left on top and these 2 x's on the bottom. I could write 6 squared over x squared or 36 over x squared. I think 6 squared is a reasonable task to ask of you. So what if there's coefficients? Now this isn't necessarily a coefficient. That was just another number being taken to a power. Remember, this variable stands for number 2. So divide the coefficients normally and then subtract your exponents. Remember when we would multiply the coefficients normally? Same thing here. Whoops, I gave it all away. So take a look at this. You're going to have 12 over 2, 2 divided by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Okay, so I kind of got that up there. Then you can cancel out x, 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 and x. Or just know I can take away 5 here and 5 here. So the 6, remember, that's great, but it's nice to know, is it going to be on top? Is it going to be on the bottom? Well, let's just look at where it is. 6, you have 1, 2, 3. Everything canceled out on the bottom. That's where your 1 is going to be. Now remember, we still need to simplify. If you need to take that in for a second, rewind it, watch it again. There's kind of a lot going on there. I'm going to move on to our next example, which will be this practice page. And I'm not sure if it's going to open on this screen or my other screen. Let's find out. It's always kind of a mystery. This is going to be some practice that we're going to do together. I will walk through it at any time. Please feel free to move ahead without me, especially on some of these easier ones up top. There's more down below. So I'm going to get you through number 10, erase the screen and scroll down again. Pause the video now if you want to try it yourself. If not, I'll do a couple with you and then ask you to pause the video later. Okay. So number 1, we're lucky. We're the same coefficient, which is nice because we know what to do with that. A. Anytime you have 5 divided by 5, boom. But that's what we've been doing. So now my answer is just A over 1, which simplifies to A. That's it. It all goes away except for that one little guy up top. Okay? Now here you can look at 2 over 4. We all know what 2 over 4 is going to simplify to. Okay? You're going to get 1/2. So 1 over 2x. A great time to try at least the next few. Again, if you're, you know, 9, go ahead, pause the video, work through number 8, and then watch the answers, watch I work through them, and pick me up at number 9, okay? Watch me work through that and then go on. So here, ends cancel. Two of those m's are going to cancel out. You're going to be left with 2 over 5m. On number 5, it's really easy to see this. I'm not going to write a lot of this out because I have identical m squared here over m squared here. Okay? So what I'm going to do, instead of writing them and then crossing them out, since they are exactly the same, cross them out first, and now I'm left with 3 over 6. We all know we can reduce that. This is kind of easy to see, I think, as well. When you look at number 7, we got 3, 6 again. We know how that's going to go. And this is a lot like those r's, only there's extra on top instead of the bottom. Here's something about this, though. Remember when we did equations, we never really wrote that one. To be truly simplified, get rid of that 1. We don't write numbers like that. I didn't write, hey, there's 1 times 2 and there's 1 times x. I don't do that. Nobody does that, writing this 1 here. So don't do it. Just leave it as, sorry, x over 2. Okay, we'll move on to number 8. Again, I'm not writing 1x on number 8. I'm just straight up writing 8. I'm going to erase all the work we have now before I move on because I'm kind of running out of my screen here. So if there's anything you need to go back and watch, feel free to do that again. I'm going to scroll down and expose the rest of the questions that you have. Oop, too far. Okay, let's pick up on number 9. I'm doing cursive Y's because my X's, when I go quickly, can get sloppy, and that way when I do an X without half of its second little leg over here, I know that's not a Y. Okay. Ooh, I missed a few X's up top. Guess I was looking at that number 2. So 2x to the 4th y squared, 6x to the 3rd. Okay, so I simplify this as 1/3. Those all cross up. So up top, I'm left with x, and then I have 2 of these guys. Then on the bottom, all I have is a 3. Oh, I skipped number 9. Why? Sound like a toddler when you read these out. We had fun in the other classes. So there we go. We have 8 over 4, 2x's up top, 2 on the bottom. And if you recognize that, these are exactly the same, go ahead and cross them out now. And then that way, look, just save some time. I like to write everything out so I don't miss anything. And 8 divided by 4 is 2. Got my 1 down here. Cross out some of these. So I have 2y squared on top and nothing but a 1 on the bottom, which is going to simplify to 2y squared. Why? Why? Okay. 8. Now again, this one, like on the bottom, you see that the y comes before this, but when I write my answer, I'm still going to write it in alphabetical order. These are not going to cancel each other out, but they're both good. I have 3, 2 of these guys up here, and I have 4, 2 of those guys left. So then we already did 11. Let's skip over to 12. And now I have 1 over 3x. Okay. Go ahead. You know what? On number 15, I'm going to ask you to just ignore that negative sign right there. We're not going to involve that in our problem just for simplicity, because these are kind of getting a little crazier as you start to look at them. On 13, 14, and 15, we can do some simplifying before we start simplifying. I know it sounds weird, but we have to use the product rule, then the quotient rule, because look, there's a lot of stuff I can combine down here through the product rule of multiplication. So let's just deal with the top first. We have 5. 1, 2, 3. 5 of those. And then I know that -7 times -10, I can just multiply that so I don't have to write both those numbers down. So we have positive 70, because a negative is a negative. And then I have 5x here and 4 here, so I'm just going to straight up go with 9. And then I have 1y here and 3 over here. That's a lot of information, okay? I'm going to start crossing off some of my letters here. I'm going to switch colors so it stands out a little better. And then I have 1, 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, and 1 for 1. Now I can look at what's left. Ooh, 5 and 70. They're both divisible by 5. Okay, so up top I have this and I have this. On the bottom I have all that and that. So I have y, again, not 1y, I want to simplify this, over 14 x to the 6. I'm going to erase this because I've overflowed into the area for number 14 and 15. So to work now, why don't you can pause the video and actually move on to 14 and 15 since you kind of know what to do first. It'll save you a lot of time writing all this stuff out, then combining it and having to write it again. Okay? Again, if you need to look back at any examples or missed some of the work and some of the answers, you can rewind the video. So I'm going to negative 3 times 4. Over there. Plus 1 over there. -5 and 3 x's. Here's an interesting thing. Both the top and bottom values are negative. When you have a negative divided by a negative, what do you get? So you can, yep, a positive. So you can kind of cross out the negatives too. Look at that. Negative, there's a negative divided by a negative, and those will cancel. So I'm left with actually a positive. I have an x. I have a couple y's down here. 5. Everything else canceled on the bottom. And again, you have negative divided by a negative, so that answer will be positive, and we're just going to leave it at that. When I come over here, remember, we're going to ignore this little thing out here, okay? So I have 5. 3. That's a bad A. All over. Oops. What mistake did I make? Look at that. I'm going to start over both. Some multiplication I can do here. 9 times negative 2. I have 4 b's plus 1 more. And then I have only 2 a's over here. So this b and this b will cancel out. I have 1 here for this one and 1 here for that one. And does anything else? 5 and 18 don't go together, do they? So then I have 18 with 3 b's on the bottom. Not just an 18, but a negative 18. As you can see, it can get quite involved quite quickly, and not everything is super smooth and easy. It's going to take some practice. We're going to learn about negative exponents, which will kind of help us minimize some of this longhand work that we have here. So let me go ahead and come back to some other things we might see in our homework. What if there's missing values? That's not so bad. I now have x to the 6th divided by x to the something. How am I going to get 2? This is when we come back to our basic rules. You can write it out. 6 divided by how many of these? So I only have 2 left. So I would have 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have to do something like that, right? So obviously I need to cancel 4 x's. So it should be x to the 4th on the bottom, but let's, even easier than that, we'll go back to our rules and say you have to subtract your exponents, so 6 minus what equals 2. Your missing value is 4, so it really is quite simple. Aha! So now the missing value comes first. So again, you can try to figure out how many are left. It is a whole number, so you know the extras are going to be on the top. Okay? So you know you have 5, but that's 5 left, or I'm sorry, 5 on the bottom, and you're going to have 4 left over up on top. So not only do you have to have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you have 4 more. Okay? Again, you can also say what minus 5 equals 4, and that's way easier. This is first grade work right here. And your missing exponent here is clearly a 9. You have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus 4 more. And I'm not adding 4, I'm putting 4 more y's down. Oh, I think that's all we have. Those are all the examples that I have for you. And that's all the stuff you're going to see on your homework. When we meet next, we'll start looking at negative exponents, which I said before will take away some of this footwork here.